If your dog ever pauses before coming to you, just for a second, then slowly walks over, that moment matters more than you think, because that's not hesitation, that's a decision. And here's the thing, what your dog is deciding in that moment has nothing to do with obedience. It has everything to do with how they feel about you, right now. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what that pause means, what's happening inside your dog's mind, and why, without realizing it, you might be the reason it started. Most people think, my dog is distracted, maybe they didn't hear me. They're just being stubborn. But here's the truth, dogs don't hesitate like that without a reason, and they definitely don't do it randomly. Dogs don't respond to your words first, they respond to patterns, to tone, to timing, to what usually happens next. Every time you call your dog, you're not just giving a command, you're activating a memory. Think about this for a second. Imagine this. You call your dog, and for the first time, they don't move right away. You call them again. They look at you immediately, but instead of running toward you like before, they pause. Just for a second. Maybe they blink. Maybe they shift their weight. Maybe they glance away for a moment, and then they come. Slower, more carefully. And most people ignore that moment, but that moment is everything, because what you're seeing there is not hesitation, it's evaluation. Your dog is not asking, should I listen? They're asking something much deeper. What is going to happen if I go to you right now? That pause is a check, a quick internal scan. Your dog is reading your body language, your voice, your energy, and most importantly, their past experiences with you. Not yesterday, not in general, but in moments just like this. And if that pause starts showing up more often, it means something is changing. Not in their training, but in their confidence. Because a confident dog doesn't pause like that. They move instantly. Not because they're forced to, but because they already know what it feels like to come to you. So let's slow this moment down and look at what's really happening inside that pause. That first pause, it's not random. It's not empty. Your dog isn't doing nothing, they're processing. In that split second, their brain is asking, do I go now or wait? And the fact that this question even exists means something has already shifted. Watch closely. Before your dog moves, they often shift their weight slightly, forward, then back, then forward again. That hesitation in their body is hesitation in their confidence. Because a dog that feels completely safe doesn't prepare themselves like that. They just go. When they finally move, the first step is slower than usual. Not playful, not eager, measured. Almost like they're testing the situation as they approach. That's not laziness, that's caution. One of the most important signs happens right before they come. They briefly look away, even if it's just for a moment. Most people think, oh, they got distracted. But that's not distraction, that's pressure release. Your dog is lowering the emotional intensity before moving toward you. Even when they're coming closer, their body might stay slightly stiff, not fully relaxed, not fully open, because part of them is still unsure about what's going to happen next. Now here's what really matters. All of these signals together, the pause, the slow step, the glance away, they all come from one place: uncertainty. Not fear, not disobedience, just uncertainty. And uncertainty changes everything. Because instead of moving with trust, they move with caution. Your dog isn't reacting to just this moment, and this is the moment most people lose their dog without ever realizing it. They're reacting to a pattern built from previous calls, previous reactions, previous outcomes. Every time you've called them before has trained them what to expect now. And here's the part most people don't realize. Your dog can still come to you, even when they're unsure. They can still obey you, even when they don't fully trust the moment. Which means, obedience can look completely normal, while trust is already breaking underneath. So if this hesitation isn't random, and it's not about distraction, then where does it actually come from? So if your dog is hesitating, this didn't just happen. This built over time. It didn't come from one big moment, but from many small ones your dog has been quietly learning from. Sometimes you call them gently. Sometimes you sound impatient. Sometimes you call them just to pet them. Other times, you call them and immediately grab them, move them, or stop what they were doing. From your perspective, those are completely different situations. But from your dog's perspective, they all feel the same. And that's where confusion begins. They hear their name, and they don't always know what comes next. So they pause. Dogs don't understand your words first. They feel your tone first. You might say, "Come here," but your energy says something else. Tension, distraction, frustration, and your dog picks that up instantly. So now they're not responding to the word anymore. They're responding to the feeling behind it. And that feeling isn't always clear. This one is subtle, but powerful. You call your dog, they come, and the moment they arrive, you hold them. You guide them, you reposition them, you restrict their movement, even gently. Over time, your dog starts to associate. Going to you means losing freedom. So the next time you call them, they hesitate. Not because they don't want to be with you, but because they're not sure what they're giving up. Sometimes your dog comes to you and nothing happens. No clear response, no connection, no closure. Or worse, your reaction is delayed. So now your dog can't predict the outcome. And when a dog can't predict what happens next, they slow down. Because unpredictability creates caution. None of these moments feel big to you, but to your dog, they stack. Each one becomes a data point. And over time, your dog builds a simple rule. I need to check before I go. This is why hesitation doesn't appear suddenly. It develops quietly, from clarity to slight uncertainty to visible pause. And once that pause appears, it tends to stay, unless something changes. But here's where it gets even more important, because hesitation isn't the final stage, it's just the beginning of a pattern. Hesitation doesn't stay the same. It builds, it evolves, and once it starts, it almost never goes backward on its own. Slowly, quietly, but very clearly. At first, it's just a small pause, barely noticeable. Then it becomes a habit, a slightly slower response, a brief moment of checking, a softer approach. And then, over time, it turns into something else. At the beginning, your dog comes immediately. No pause, no hesitation, because everything feels clear. Then comes the shift. Just a second. A pause before movement. Most people ignore it, but this is where everything starts. Now your dog still comes, but not the same way. Slower, less certain, more aware. They're no longer moving with confidence, they're moving with awareness. Then something changes again. Your dog doesn't move right away. They wait longer. They look around. They take their time before deciding, not because they're distracted, but because they're unsure. Now your dog starts choosing. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. And from the outside, it looks like disobedience. But from the inside, it's decision-making. And here's the part most people never notice. Your dog can go through all of this and still look completely normal. They still come when you call. They still stay close. They still respond. But something inside has changed, and most people don't notice it until their dog stops coming at all. They're no longer moving toward you with certainty. They're moving toward you with evaluation. And that difference matters. Because trust is not about whether your dog comes, it's about how they come. Fast, relaxed, certain, or slow, careful, checking. The most dangerous moment is not when your dog stops listening. It's when they're still listening, but no longer feel completely safe doing it. Because that's when the connection starts to shift, quietly, without you realizing it. So if hesitation is not the end, but part of a pattern, then what does it actually take to change it? Fixing hesitation is not about calling your dog louder, or repeating the command, or training them to respond faster. Because here's the truth. Hesitation was never a training problem. It was a clarity problem, one your dog has been trying to solve without you. Your dog doesn't need more commands. They need predictability. They need to know, when I go to you, I know exactly what it feels like. Not sometimes, not depending on your mood, but every single time. Every time you call your dog, you're not just asking them to come, you're teaching them what that moment means. Is it calm? Is it safe? Is it clear? Or is it uncertain? Because whatever that moment feels like, that's what your dog remembers. Hesitation doesn't come from your dog. It comes from the space between what you say and what your dog expects to happen next. A confident dog doesn't come because they have to. They come because they already feel safe, before they even move. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Hesitation is only one kind of signal, because sometimes your dog doesn't hesitate at all. They come to you immediately. They bring you something, and then suddenly, they don't want to interact at all. They turn away. They stop. They disengage. And that behavior means something completely different and much deeper. In the next video, if your dog brings you their toy but doesn't want to play, this is the real reason.